The question is, if your cost of that car goes up by 25% or 30%, do you keep your order? If you're a
And
Porsche enthusiast, do you keep your order?
Yeah, exactly. Tariffs could reduce car sales by 2 million in the US and Canada in 2025. I'm John. This is Adam. We're two car guys. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, this is a great topic. So, welcome back, everybody. It's been a couple weeks since we've actually had a podcast. So, if you haven't been watching the build series videos, I hope you guys have missed us.
Yes.
If you have been watching the build series videos, I'm glad that you're here watching the podcast videos. So, make sure you're liking and subscribing to the channel. But let's talk about this. This is affecting everybody. And John, it's one of those things that I think you and I found a twist to this today that we didn't realize was going to happen, right?
I think it's going to affect the broader market on cars in general. Our favorite things are going to be affected a lot. I think
so it's kind of good news, bad news, right? So for used car market prices are going to go up. Now that's good news for people who have cars. And aren't looking to, and are looking to sell them, right?
I'm just hovering over Carvana every day, man. Like, which one's got to go?
No, it is. It's great news if you've got cars and you want to sell them and you're hoping to get more for them. It's bad news if you're trying to replace a car.
Yes.
But I will say there is some fear mongering out there right now.
Yeah.
I just watched a commercial recently from a local Chevy dealership. And they were like, buy cars now before they get hit by tariffs. If it's built in the U.S., it's not going to be affected by tariffs. So Chevy manufacturers should not be trading on the fact that tariffs are going to impact it.
But they're probably sitting on a 180-day supply on that vehicle.
I mean, they probably are. That's the bad part.
The bad part is they got a lot of inventory. They're trying to offload. What's a great marketing tactic? That's I guess
the
we'll
world's
save
on
that
fire.
for
That's
video.
a great marketing tactic, right?
Yeah, the world's on fire. You must fire sell everything.
Yeah. So the good news right now is that there is a pause on tariffs. I know that there's a lot of people talking about tariffs right now, and what we really want to figure out is how do they affect us, right? And so the truth of the matter is there's a pause on tariffs right now. We saw a couple companies. Audi's one of them. Audi said that they would not import cars into the U.S. during this, this tariff crunch, right?
Right.
Now that's going to be interesting because there should be some other cars that will follow suit if that continues to be the thing. And all that's going to do is take the existing supply that's out there, and put a stranglehold on it. All those prices are going to go up. In fact, we've already seen manufacturers like Land Rover and some other luxury manufacturers that have already started passing that extra fee on to the customers.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you want a new Land Rover Sport or a Range Rover, you're going to end up...
Going to have to bring some change.
You're going to end up having to come there with some more money,
Absolutely. And one of the things I was looking at too, you're seeing a bigger push in production in the U.S. where companies are shifting cars they didn't build before in the U.S. to U.S. plants, just to kind of negate the tariff laws. But a lot of the parts, and that's the biggest key I think me and you pulled out of this, is a lot of the parts, even though the whole assembly may be built here, the parts don't always start here. And I think that's where we're seeing these big increases across the board. And I don't think it's just going to be manufacturers like GM and Chevrolet and all of that. I think we're going to see it in sub dealers like, certain ones that like AWE, APR, big brands like that they're going to be affected too.
I think if you're sourcing parts outside the U.S., it's going to be an issue, right? Now, silver lining, if they do start building some of these, exotic cars or luxury cars here in the United States, like an Audi, for instance, or Porsches, or those higher end brands, uh, the nice thing is those cars, because they're built in Europe, they don't come with remote start. And when you look at things like BMW is
Right.
made in South Carolina, at least their X series is made in South Carolina, and they have remote start on their vehicles.
Right.
So building those vehicles, on U.S. soil may open up the door for some of the Audis and the Porsches and that sort of thing to have remote start on the keys.
Yeah.
So that might be a benefit to this whole thing. And I know, we can talk about how it's going to be creating jobs here in the U.S. and driving, more production here in the U.S. But we're seeing right now that the report that we were reading this morning from Car and Driver says that it looks like it could lead to 1.8 million fewer cars, fewer car sales this
Yeah.
year. Now, that could be a $30,000, Hyundai Elantra, or it could be a, $150,000, luxury SUV, right?
Yeah.
It just depends. Now, to your point, we've already reported that Stellantis and Chevy and some of these other manufacturers, Nissan's a big one that we don't talk about enough,
Yeah. Right.
has a ton of inventory
Correct.
sitting on the lot.
Right.
Um, for them, having less choice would probably be a good thing. And we'd kind of go back to, remember when we were in COVID times,
Oh,
and
I know.
I mean,
Yeah.
nobody had cars, right?
Yeah. And then
Everybody was looking for cars.
right. And then to find a car at MSRP was a whole thing and all of that. And I don't think we're going to get that far into it. I think that you're going to see a price bump, and I also don't know about it affecting used car values as much as we want it to, in a positive way.
I mean, I
Um,
definitely think it's going to affect used car values. I don't think. I mean, positive is a it's subjective because
right.
it might be positive for me if I go to sell the McLaren.
Yeah.
It might not be positive for you who wants to buy a used car, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It might be positive for you who wants to get rid of the Maserati. It might not be positive for me who's looking to buy a manual transmission car, right? So
Right. Yeah.
it just depends on what the market does, but we're already starting to see this thing impact and impact in more ways than just car prices in
Right.
general, because car prices, if you look at the Trump administration's 25% tariffs, that's a huge number, right?
Yeah.
And so when you focus that on the automotive sector, the rise in cost, if the manufacturers pass that along to the customers. I think you and I have already talked about this in a previous video.
We have.
Cars
Yeah.
are already too damn
They're
expensive.
too expensive already. And then we're talking about raising prices at a time where they really don't need to. I don't think manufacturers need to do that. But I'm seeing even in like me, I usually buy a car every January or February. I ain't bought a car at all this year, and I don't think that I'm going to in the near future. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't see the value in it, and I do have a pretty expensive car on order, but even then, I don't know that if it gets much more expensive than it is now, I don't think we're going to buy it. It's just got to make sense. But yeah, so the times are weird for car people.
Yeah, and I mean, we're
It's a weird time.
it is, and that Car and Driver article that you and I talked about. I mean, they
Right.
liken this constraint to feel a lot like it did during the COVID-19 pandemic because
Absolutely.
people weren't producing cars, and in this case, they're not going to be sending cars. In
Right.
most cases, but I mean, we've talked about this. If you look at
Yeah.
Stellantis's line, their trucks are getting more and more expensive. Their cars are getting more and more expensive. Ford is doing the same thing. Their cars and trucks are getting more and more expensive.
Right.
And if you look at these manufacturers, they're they're making these huge jumps in price. I don't know that the value is necessarily there. And
Right.
now you're going to pass along a 25% increase on things like Hyundai and those sorts of things. And I mean, I don't know if you've seen recently, but they're putting out commercials like today where
Yeah.
they're talking about giving people employee discount, employee pricing, employee discount, and you pay what we pay.
Yeah.
Jeep is running some ads talking about how they're the most American car brand and they're gonna, reduce costs and reduce pricing.
Right. In a time where other people are raising prices, but let's talk about, Jeep and Stellantis is one of those brands that already have probably some of the most expensive vehicles,
I mean, I think
for
that
what
they
they
need
go
to,
for
I
what
think
they
they
are.
need to reduce pricing, right?
Exactly. So,
But the one impact that I don't think enough people are talking about is, yes, it's going to impact new car pricing.
right.
I fully agree it's going to impact, or I fully believe it's going to impact used car pricing.
Yeah.
Because if new car prices are 25% higher,
Yeah.
you're going to either hold on to the car you have, which is going to make the used car market have less vehicles, or
Right.
you're going to seek out a used vehicle, right? And if most people are holding on to what they have and the inventory is lower, then the cost of used vehicles is going to go up.
Right.
And between those two things, I think that's a big impact. The one thing that we aren't talking enough about is we saw an article as well when we were doing the research for this episode,
Yeah.
and they were talking about 40% of the parts used for repairs are imported,
Yes.
and it's basically,
Just standard repairs.
yeah,
We're talking about
exactly,
you need a timing chain, you need an engine mount or an exhaust pipe or something like that. Any of those parts are now going to cost you, the consumer, even more money. And it's they're basically the headline on that article, and we'll post both the articles below. Um, the headline on that article basically said, "Get your car fixed now. Don't wait. If you think it's an
yeah.
issue, handle it."
Yeah, don't
Because
delay your repairs. And here's the crazy part. And
yeah,
reading the article, I didn't even realize this. I didn't even think. I don't know why I didn't think about it. But when I think of repairing your car, right?
yeah,
I think of engine, trim pieces, those sorts of repairs, right?
okay,
I don't think of tires being a
yeah,
repair item.
oh
But
yeah,
tires are a wear item, and according to NBC News, the bulk of the rubber imports come from Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia,
yes,
Indonesia, and the Ivory Coast, which will impact production costs for people like Goodyear and Cooper and all those guys, right?
yeah,
So, and Bridgestone, and you're thinking about the prices of tires getting more
and
expensive.
they're already more expensive.
They are,
I think we've
and
talked about this in the past. They've
I'll
gotten
tell you, the
twice
tires
as
for the
expensive.
vehicles that you and I own are specialty tires, and they're
Oh
even more
gosh,
expensive.
oh I
You
know,
know,
man. Yeah, it's
so
crazy. Yeah,
it's going to have. I mean, we're already seeing a direct impact
yeah,
of tariffs. Um, I think when it went into effect in April, before they announced the pause, I was actually standing at a dealership picking up one of my cars from getting serviced, and they were talking about, oh, this brand is passing the cost along to the consumer. This brand
right.
is not bringing cars into the U.S. They also own this and this and this, so maybe they don't bring those cars into the U.S. It's going to be a very interesting time, and you start to wonder with cars like Porsche, for instance, right? I mean, they have a long list of people who have orders, who have cars on order,
Yeah,
right? The question is, if your cost of that car goes up by 25% or 30%, do you keep your order? If you're a
and
Porsche
yeah,
enthusiast, do you keep your order?
yeah, exactly. And it all depends. You've waited. It's not just some Porsche guys have waited 4 or 5 years to get to the car they're at,
At least,
and at
at
least,
least,
and it's
yeah,
like do you stay in that brand at that point? Like I would feel betrayed. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like completely betrayed. Oh, you're raising my car 25%, and I've waited 4 years. My initial deposit's gone now, and here we are.
I mean, to be
Um,
fair,
That'd be tough,
Porsche
man.
already did that once, right?
Yeah.
So they already raised prices on their newest batch of 911s.
Oh, I mean,
And so
yeah,
imagine waiting for a GT car, finally
yeah,
being eligible to get a GT car, and somebody saying to you, "Oh yeah, not only are you taking the price increase of the new car, but we're going to
Man.
tack on another 25% on the end of it.
Another part of that too is, just think the cost of like a 911T 3 years ago is almost double what it
Yeah.
was. That is a massive difference than what it would have been, you know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh man, it's very tough to think about, that overall metric of how do we get here, and
But again,
then
it
where do
won't
we
be
go from here?
they're not going to be the only cars that are impacted by this. And to your
No,
point, um,
and it's looking
it,
like all manufacturers are going to be affected by this. It's
it
not
does,
just
yeah, it does to a
one
certain
or
point,
two. It's
right?
all will be affected in some way. So
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, most manufacturers or most dealerships anyway make their
yeah,
money off of service. And
right.
so if the cost of service doubles or triples in some cases, right? Then people are going to delay service or they're going to try to get out of their vehicle.
Yeah,
I just don't see it. I don't really see this having a positive light in any way,
no,
shape, or form. And I have seen dealerships that are already, putting a upcharge, if you will, on their window stickers,
yeah,
right? Which is to me that's just crazy
yeah.
that we're
To
seeing that.
preemptively do it, not knowing
Yeah,
what your overall cost is going to be, that's tough.
but it's hard
Yeah,
because when you think about it, then you get down to the point, do I really need a new car? Can I live with this car a little bit
yeah,
longer until they figure this out?
yeah,
Um, it's a very interesting conundrum because even if you live with the car, if you've got an issue with it,
yeah.
part of that
How safe
article
is this thing at
says,
that point?
yeah, part of that article says that a brake job costs about $500 per axle. Now
Right.
they're saying it could cost anywhere between $650 and $800 per axle. So you're talking about going up another $300, another $600 total.
The,
And that might be more than people can afford right now.
the people that are going to be affected by this are going to be people that really are already in a struggle
Yeah.
going forward to this. It's kind of tough, but yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, even
yeah,
this article even pointed out that labor rates could increase 30 to 60% when you factor in the labor costs and everything else that's involved, right? So
well,
it's
not to
just
mention they're having
crazy.
a labor shortage too. I mean, like that's
Yeah.
another whole nother thing, a whole nother topic. But
Well,
I
and I
mean,
feel like less people are trying to go down that route.
right,
We're seeing less qualified people that are wanting to get into the repair industry. You
right,
know,
yeah,
but
it's
I mean, at
interesting.
the end of the day, when you look at both the tariffs on new vehicles, the tariffs on the repair parts, um, I mean, the real question has to be: is it worth buying a car right now, or
Yeah,
is it worth buying a car in this market, or do you just sit on what you got? I mean, to your point, you've got a specialty car that may or may not be affected by this. Who knows? Who knows what
right,
they say?
yeah,
But you've got a specialty car that's on order, and in your situation, if you backed out of it and said, "Well, we're not getting it," it's not the end of the world, right? You
no,
have other vehicles.
right,
I actually went. There's a car that I'm very very interested in. They only made 40. They're only going to make 46 of these cars,
okay,
and it's an awesome car and a really cool livery, and the buying experience comes with a whole
host of
yeah, a whole
great
host of
benefits.
stuff,
Yeah,
right? So it's very cool. I
right.
went to two different dealers, and not only did they tell me with the tariffs, they have no idea if it's even possible to get this
Oh
car,
my gosh,
but they
man.
basically said, "Look, the best we can do is you can give us 5 grand non-refundable."
Non-refundable.
Yeah.
That's the kick right there. It's like,
Well,
yeah,
it was right. So they
it's
said you can give
like,
us 5 grand
ugh,
non-refundable, and we can basically make the attempt to try and get the car.
yeah,
And I was like, well, what happens if, there's no guarantee, So what happens if I
ugh,
don't get it? That I obviously just lose my money, which means I have to put it toward another vehicle on your lot.
right. Ugh, it's
Um,
unreal, man.
it is unreal. But the
Unreal.
thing is, the real truth of the matter is those guys have just as much of a clue as to what's going on as you and I do.
Yeah,
right? They
exactly. I
don't
mean,
know any more than we do about
yeah.
what the future holds for all this. We can read every article known to man. We can talk about
Well,
everything that we think
I
is going to
just
happen. We
read,
don't know.
one thing I just read is ABC News is actually stating that sales this month, it says consumers went out in force last month, sorry, to scoop up available cars and trucks and SUVs before prices inched higher, helping the industry report record sales. In
Yeah,
fact, nearly 1.6 million vehicle units were purchased,
yeah.
making the month-over-month increase 29% and the year-over-year increase of 10.3%. So
Which is
right as soon
interesting
as
though,
the tariffs
because
happened, we're seeing a spike in sales.
we are seeing a spike because there's that panic buying, right? So
Yeah.
if you were ever in the market for a car, if you were ever even considering a car, people are running out to try and get them before the tariffs go in place. And we were already seeing that, oh, get them before the tariff. And so
You know what this
now that
is?
there's a pause,
Yeah.
you've got another 90 days to create all that,
Create more hype, create more
hype and worry
sales.
and everything, right?
Yes. And then that's what's going to happen. And then we'll have a big tiff in 90 days and create more hype, create more worry. And then we're going to see this. I think it's going to be like this.
It
And
might be. We might see peaks and valleys and that sort
yes.
of thing. But I will tell you this: the way it's going right now with all this panic buying, we're still seeing manufacturers that are reporting
Discounting.
low. Well, no, we're
Losses.
still seeing manufacturers that are reporting dips in sales from this time last year.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
if the market is panic buying and people are finally saying, "Okay, I need to go. I've been wanting to get a car. I need to go get a car
Yeah.
now before I can't."
Yeah.
And companies like Stellantis and Maserati are still seeing record lows
But
during
if
this
you're
time.
panic buying a car, you're not going to panic buy a Maserati. You know what I
No,
mean?
but you could panic buy a Dodge, or
Yeah,
you could panic
100%
buy a
Dodge
Jeep,
truck or something like that. Yeah,
right?
absolutely. But
But if they're not seeing it, then there's a larger problem
but I
there.
think I saw an ad the other day that said they were offering like $12,000 to $13,000 off a new truck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a chunk of money. And then
But they were
also
doing that
that
before the
I
tariffs,
know,
man.
I know,
They're
but
so
that's
far
just
upside down. Like
correct.
yeah,
But the price is already high. But I'm just saying, like $12,000 to $13,000, that would entice people to go in.
it
But
would.
to still be in
It's
a slump after that, that's tough.
it's funny. A friend of mine bought a Jeep Gladiator
Yeah,
and bought it off the lot. He only buys new cars; he doesn't buy anything used.
right.
And he sent me a message, and he was like, "Oh man, I got this car, and I'm super excited about it. And it's great looking. It's like a military
Yeah,
green. It's a great looking car."
awesome. Yeah,
And he's like, "I got 15 grand off," and I'm like, "Man, it's great." But when you look at it,
it's
the price of that car increased so much, and the
yeah,
resale value on that thing is
it's
just
hard,
through
hard,
through the
hard, tough.
floor.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
You know?
And that's the other thing. Like you compare that to what your resale value is versus 8 months ago,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh, man, the losses you take on a trade now are just they're astronomical.
Well, because a
But
lot of these trades are they're overpriced anyway, right? So when
yeah,
you look at,
yeah,
I,
exactly.
I think I told you this a while ago. I was at Toyota. Toyota's usually a pretty stable brand as far as resale goes.
Right,
You used to be able to buy a Toyota Tacoma, put 100,000 miles on it, and sell it for just less than you bought it for 10
right.
years ago. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
They hold their value really, really, really well, and they're a very reliable car. It doesn't have all the creature comforts. The door cards are thin, the doors are thin, the floors are thin, but that car will run forever and a
It'll
day.
get you there for whatever you need.
Right.
Um, but
But but the big thing about it was I was at the dealership not that long ago, and I was looking at this green TR. I think they call it like toxic green or something, but it's a green TRD Pro Tacoma,
okay,
and they wanted almost 80 grand for that freaking
bro.
truck. And I was like, guys, it's a Tacoma. It's not worth 80
It's
grand. It's
but
and I,
you know.
I understand it's a TRD Pro. I get it, but it's not worth 80 grand,
So
right?
I
If
remember
if
when
I'm
I was in high
like, no.
school, and I wanted it was a yellow uh, Chevrolet Colorado,
Oh yeah.
and it
Yep.
was it was it wasn't even extended cab. It was single cab, 6 speed, but it was the 5 cylinder. And I was like, man, this is awesome. This is what I want. And I remember the sticker price out the door, we were like $18,250. And
Yeah.
I was like,
That was for a
Dad,
brand new truck,
brand
fully loaded,
spanking
everything
new.
on it.
Now it wasn't fully loaded, but brand spanking new truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You walk in the dealership now, and I saw, and I'll never forget. I was looking at the electric Chevrolet, and just looking, just
Not a
whatever.
fan.
Me and my dad were standing there, and in the same dealership that I bought that truck from, or was going to buy that truck from, was sitting a Colorado, and it was $48,000
Oh yeah.
for the same thing. Like it was a base
Yeah,
vehicle,
look
you
at
know what
a
I mean? Nothing special.
Colorado Bison
What?
edition, fully loaded. It's like $60,000.
No.
Yeah.
It's unreal, man. How do we
Yeah.
get here? Now, where do
Well,
we
and I
go?
mean that's before tariffs come into effect, right?
Yeah,
That's
that's even
before you start to
before the
see any
increases.
any outside
Unreal, man.
impact of increases of any kind. And the thing about it is those $70,000, $80,000 TRDs, I saw one for sale the other day for like 40 something thousand or
Yeah,
50
so
grand. I sent it to my friend. I sent it to my friend the other day because I know he likes that truck. And I was like,
yeah,
now that all
that's
the,
unreal, man. That
the
is
depreciation's out of it,
absolutely
jump on that
unbelievable.
truck. It's crazy. So the question is, are these cars going to continue to depreciate at such a steep angle if new vehicles aren't readily available? I think the answer
I
is
think the answer
no.
is
They're
no.
not going to
Yeah.
depreciate at such
So
a
maybe
steep
maybe it
angle.
slows down depreciation. Do you think we start to see cars come back up in value a little?
I
I
have to
think
think
so.
that they will.
I think you're right. I think we will. Let us know in the comments what y'all think. What do you think? Are you going to go out and buy a vehicle because of the tariff increase and try to get it before that? Are you going to hold off and weather the storm and see what happens? What what are y'all thinking? I don't
Well,
know,
and I'll
man.
tell you this: we don't often give advice on this channel, but I will say, based on what we've read in the last couple days, if you are in a situation where you're, waiting to get some things fixed on your car, now is probably the time to do it. Don't delay. If you've got something going on with your car, go and get it fixed now,
Yes.
so that you're not affected by the tariffs. And when I say fixed, if you're down to the meat of your tire,
Please get
go
tires.
get new tires.
Please get tires.
Please get new
Yes,
tires.
save everyone, on the road and yourself from anything happening.
That's right.
That's the best
And
move.
save yourself some money at the same
Absolutely.
time. So on that note, if you've stuck with us this long, we appreciate it. This is obviously a topic that is hot right now, but
Yeah.
if there's something you guys would love for us to dive into and do some research on,
Put it below.
let us know. Leave some comments in there so we can read them.
Yes.
We appreciate everybody. We just hit 800 subscribers today, so we're on our way.
Thank you. Thank you for
Every little bit
subbing.
counts, and we
Yes.
appreciate everything you guys have done.
We'll see you on the next one.
See you
Peace.
guys.